We did it.
A streak continues in Top Fuel drag racing. The two-wheeled climax of Speed Weeks at Daytona. Different winners and spectacular losers in sprint car racing. And a reprimand for the goo-goo guy at Martinsville. All this and more on MotorWeek Illustrated.
MotorWeek Illustrated is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Hello, everyone. Motorcycle racing has celebrated its annual rite of spring. I'm Dave DeSpain, and we'll tell you about that today on MotorWeek.
And I'm Bob Varsha. I'll tell you what Mike Waltrip has in common with Formula One world champion Ayrton Senna, and we'll enjoy a visit from the undisputed king of sprint car racing. We'll begin today with the most remarkable turnaround of the drag racing season to date. The straight line racers are in Gainesville, Florida this weekend for the Gator Nationals, and top fuel pilot Gary Ormsby has the hot hand. Last year, Gio didn't make a single trip to the finals. This year, he's not only making them all, he's winning them all. After a week's postponement for rain, Ormsby went to Houston last weekend looking for his second straight victory of the '89 campaign. He found his season-opening Pomona victim, Joe Amato, waiting in the near lane for a shot at revenge. The week before, Joe outqualified the quickest field in Top Fuel history, but Ormsby cut a near-perfect light to jump out front. Amato charged back on the big end, but to no avail. Gary wins it, and he's still undefeated. Those boys obviously did their homework during the offseason. Ormsby's never won at Gainesville, but beating the defending world champion 2 out of 2 makes his chances look pretty good. It's no surprise to see Pro Stock star Bob Glidden going for a second straight win. Boris Johnson, the opponent this time around. Unlike Ormsby, Glidden is the dominant force in his class, and with the help of the family cheerleading section, Bullet Bob kept his '89 season record spotless as well. The hot start is bad news for Glidden's rivals. En route to 4 straight titles, he's always started slow, but finished strong. The best action of the weekend was in Funny Car, where Scott Kalita ended a 5-year drought with his first NHRA win, despite driving with a broken leg from a skiing accident. Kalita in the far lane met Bruce Larson, who set a national ET record in the second round with a 5.275. Kalita was out of the gate first, but grazed the wall, never let off, and when Larson's motor blew just short of the finish, Connie Kalita had a lot to cheer about. Dad's a drag racing legend who no longer has to explain to the kid how good it feels to win a national. Gary Ormsby gave all the credit for his Houston win to his pit crew. We'll add to that our U.S. Air Force Reserve Commander's Performance Award presented to the Castrol team by the 440th Tactical Airlift Wing, General Mitchell Field in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Elsewhere in drag racing, the rival International Hot Rod Association ran its first event last week. 6 weeks ago, the body was defunct, but over the winter it changed hands. And last weekend at Darlington, South Carolina, Pat Dakin won in Top Fuel, Brad Dakin in Funny Car, and Jim Neighbors in Pro Stock.
Well, much more than racing, Bike Week at Daytona has become a two-wheeled happening. But competition is still the focal point of that big festival, which wraps up the annual Daytona Speed Weeks. The name Jeff Stanton was on the lips of the week's biggest crowd, the Team Honda star, taking on Kawasaki's Ron Lechien in Saturday's Camel Supercross. The throng estimated at 50,000. For Lechien, too long between victories, the early lead was a ray of hope, but Stanton was out to maintain Team Honda's Supercross supremacy, and when the leaders slowed, reportedly with suspension problems, Jeff was there to pounce. Lechien's hard times continue, the frustration very apparent in the gestures to the crew. Meanwhile, Stanton's victory makes him the favorite to succeed his injured teammate Ricky Johnson as Supercross champ. Oldest event of Speed Week, 48th Daytona 200. It began with Yoshimura Suzuki rider Scott Russell stalling on the line, rear-ended by Mark Bugas. Mark went to the hospital while Scott went several laps down due to the damage. Rule changes and manufacturer priorities have left the 200 with no factory teams and no international stars. Opinions vary whether that's a blessing or a curse. Doug Poland, riding another Yosh Suzuki, waltzed away from the field until his bike quit, leaving Yoshimura hopes in the hands of Jamie James. He led to within 5 miles of the checker, and his machine also sputtered. The other potential winner was number 27, Rich Arnaz, but he crashed his hopes away, leaving number 37, John Ashmead, to take the biggest win of his career on a 5-year-old Honda. A tough and experienced veteran of the rapidly growing club racing scene in America, Ashmead ignored crew orders to pit for gas in the closing laps, and that won the race for him. Finally, the brightest new star of Speed Week came from the Camel Pro Dirt Track season opener. It's not Scott Pearson, who bobbled, nor Chris Carr, who seized the opportunity to win the $10,000 to win Camel Challenge. Not a bad payday for a 5-lap race that lasted 1 minute and 40 seconds. No, indeed, the new face is on the left. Third place, Steve Asseltine from far-off British Columbia, destined to steal the spotlight from the established stars, Carr and Pearson. Watch him now as we go to the main event. He's working on the veteran Pearson, experimenting with his racing line. Watch him square off the turn, dive under Pearson. He'll nudge a cone here, but never touch his opponent as he takes over second place. But nobody was ready for the Asseltine miracle on the last half lap. Carr had the lead. Obviously, he'd cover the bottom line. So this Canadian kid charged in high, cranked on the throttle, and just held on. He almost crashed, not once but twice, but the do-or-die effort got him to the line first. A new hero is born. Carr was among the first to congratulate this first-time Camel Pro winner, who scored his 3rd win of the Speed Week Dirt Track Series and picked up a Budweiser bonus check. We saw a lot of great performances during Bike Week. We did not see any more exciting than that one right there. Let's give Steve Asseltine a tip of the helmet. Remember that name. You saw him here first. He is MotorWeek Illustrated Racer of the Week. And when we come back, Ken Squire will join us. We're going to turn to stock car racing. Stay with us.
Come cruising with Quaker State, and you could win this 57 Vet. Buy a case of Quaker State and send for a free cruising cassette. Rock, soul, country, or California sounds. And maybe win this vintage Vet. The road goes on forever when you're cruising with Quaker State quality. Coming to Florida? You should know just how close the clear Gulf waters and sunny blue skies of St. Petersburg Clearwater and the Pinellas Suncoast are to your Walt Disney World Resort vacation. Very, very close. Come, bask in our magic.
For the stock car racing news, we bring in our old friend, executive producer Ken Squire, and the story of a guy who was as good as his word last weekend.
Indeed, David. You know, before the race, NASCAR's defending Busch Grand National champion, Tommy Ellis, vowed to win last weekend's high buck short track race at Martinsville Speedway in Virginia. It was the Tommy the Terrible of old in the red 99 who didn't waste any time getting down to business. First, Harry Gant found himself spinning, and officials said, better keep an eye on this. Then Tommy and L.D. Ottinger got into a pushing scrap, and officials said, let's black flag that boy and have a real good talk about this. Tommy hadn't gone 100 feet back onto the track when he tangled with Ottinger again, and this time he needed repairs on his car. Despite black flag and pit stops, the champ had unlapped himself and was running third when Robbie Moroso knocked out Rick Wilson, the leader, and Ellis went by clean to win by 3 seconds over Tommy Houston.
We had to overcome a lot of hurdles today to win this race, and I think that we had the fastest car, and I was trying to drive a good, clean race. I got under LD, clean under him, and these guys chop you off, and they give you a penalty, and I really couldn't understand it. When I was afraid to do anything. When NASCAR's got you afraid to race, you know, you had a big disadvantage.
That was Tommy's 3rd win at Martinsville and was worth a track record of over $14,000. Modified driver Mike Iwanitsko is only half as old as the Martinsville Oval. The track is celebrating its 42nd year as America's richest short track, while Mike is just 21. But Iwanitsko today ranks as the youngest winner in Martinsville history after his conquest of the modified race this past Sunday. And Virginia's Ronnie Thomas won the 100-lap late model stock car event. Ronnie was the 1978 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year, and he's the son of retired Cup driver Jabe Thomas.
Elsewhere, the defending Winston Cup champion, Bill Elliott, tuned up for this weekend's race at Atlanta International Raceway with a test session designed as much for his broken wrist as it was for the race car. Ever since a blown tire pitched Bill into the wall at Daytona, he's had to struggle with a cast, then a brace, and Jody Ridley has been driving for him in relief. That likely will happen again Sunday, despite what Bill says about strategy.
I ain't got a lot of strategy. The less hand gets better, you know, all I can do is just try my best to drive all day. I'm going to try to run all the race here, but yet, I mean, I don't know until I get this hand better.
Well, that injury has cost the defending champion dearly. He is currently 28th in the series standings. There will be no tire war at Atlanta this weekend because Hoosier won't show up. Goodyear's will be on all the cars. Hoosier said that they won't supply rubber for the race because they had bad weather for testing and weren't able to properly test their tires. Rather than take a risk, they're going to concentrate on the Richmond race the following weekend.
Well, Mike Waltrip will be driving his Country Time Lemonade Pontiac at Atlanta this weekend, but Tuesday found Waltrip in Montreal, Canada, pushing an exercise bike as though his career depended on it, which in a way it did. This week, Waltrip became the 69th professional driver and the first American from NASCAR to take part in a McGill University study aimed at analyzing and improving the skills of race drivers. A psychological profile was followed by 5 hours of bending, stretching, and sweating. Researchers will compare Waltrip's data with the likes of Formula One stars Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell and IndyCar ace Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. to see where and how they just might improve.
We will develop, as a result of the data that we have collected through these tests, a training program, a personal subject report and training program based on this information. Those elements in the training program will reflect the areas of strength and weakness in Michael's profile, and in those areas of weakness that we deem to be a weakness, we will suggest strategies and approaches to, in fact, improve them, to train those particular areas.
This right here was work, and I knew it would be. I felt like I was pretty good shape cardiovascularly, but I knew that, you know, with some strength and range of motion areas of the fitness, I was going to need some work, and that's why I came, and I think I'm going to get some good suggestions here and be able to improve myself to where, you know, we work on these race cars endlessly, and the crew puts in hour after hour, and sometimes I'm not all that busy, and I feel like I need to be doing my part, and, you know, they got enough people to work on the race cars, so I think I'll work on Michael and see if we can't have a happy medium somewhere.
Well, Michael and all the boys will be at Atlanta this weekend. Your prediction, sir?
Prediction. Well, it'll be Earnhardt and Wallace, and as in November, it will be Wallace to persevere.
I don't know that I would argue with that. We're going to be back with sprint cars and more a little later. Thank you, Ken Squire. We'll see you later.
How's it possible? A 250,000-word report, all right here.
Memory and storage.
How does a mouse let me move a cursor anywhere I want?
Input, output. Now, your questions about computers have clear, straightforward answers in Time Life Books' unique series, Understanding Computers. In each volume, you'll find easy-to-follow explanations of how computers work without any jargon, revealing illustrations and diagrams that make complex principles easy to understand. Order your first book, Computer Basics, now. Examine it free for 10 days. If you keep it, other volumes will follow, one about every other month. So whatever you want to know about computers.
What are address buses?
How do icons work?
Understanding Computers begins with Time Life Books.
Call 1-800-445-4000 to examine Computer Basics free for 10 days. Keep it and pay just $14.99 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-800-445-4000.
It's the hottest half hour of track talk. Join Bob Jenkins and Larry Newber for all the latest news and highlights on ESPN Speed Week. Friday nights at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN.
Last weekend, brothers Tim and Ed Herbst scored their first off-road racing victory ever. They dusted the competition in the buggy-busting Great Mojave 250, winning by the narrow margin of 1 minute after truck racer Scoop Vessels stopped to have his windshield removed. On the right, you're going to see the single-seat buggy winner. That's Troy Herbst. You betcha. Another brother ran third overall. And in the truck division, well, these guys won't have Walker Evans to kick around anymore. The legend announced before the race this is his final season at the wheel. He's retiring from competition. It has been several weeks since the season's opener at Pennsylvania's famed Williams Grove sprint car track was rained out. So they tried again last weekend on a track surrounded by 9 inches of snow. That made parking a bit of a hassle. Warm clothes were a must, but the drivers handled the rough track and cold temps very well. The worst of surprisingly few incidents sent Greg Eschenhauser flipping during the heat race. As the night and the temperature fell, perseverant fans rewarded with a great main event. Leader Steve Smith Jr. had his hands full with the 14 of Barry Camp. Paul Lothier ran third until Camp got loose and gave up the second spot, but that all came too late for Lothier to challenge Smith, who claimed the Grove's first checkered flag of the new season.
When the United Sprint Association returned to Phoenix City, Alabama for last weekend's rain date, Doug Wolfgang took up right where he left off. He grabbed his 3rd straight win of the USA season with Sammy Swindell 2nd and Steve Kinser 3rd. While the Wolfman's killing them in the USA Series, Brent Kading missed a chance last weekend to become the very first repeat winner in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, which raced close to New Daddy Brent's Northern California home last weekend. The drought in that part of the country broke in a big way as drenching rains left Silver Dollar Speedway a quagmire. There was mud flying and cars sliding, though Kading proved you could find a little traction if you knew just where to look. Rim riding a sprint car is always fun to watch, though at Chico, riding over the rim leaves one to fight an uphill battle. Better that than an upside-down battle, as Andy Hillenberg will certainly attest. Last year in 60 races, the Outlaws had a total of 11 different winners. Coming to Chico, a different driver had won each of the 4 previous events. In Saturday's prelim, Ricky Williams tumbled while Mitch Shue put the T in T-bone. Watch right here. Whack. Now, that was one scary-looking episode, but nobody was hurt. Still, it managed to cross Williams' name off the list of candidates to become series winner number 5 for the year. Look, his car was an absolute mess, though the boy named Sue came back the next night to win the B-Main. In the Dark Night feature, Kading leapt and bounded along in the lead for 24 of the 30 laps, then got snookered in traffic and let Jack Howdenschildt in the white number 48 drive past on the low side and into the lead. Even though Jumpin' Jack was all over the track the last half-dozen circuits, he held on to win and vault into 4th place in the series standings. Kading settled for 2nd in the race, but now leads the series by a point over Jeff Swindell.
And when we come back, we're going to talk with the winningest sprint car driver of all time, Steve Kinser.
Get ready for an all-new Sports Illustrated sneak preview.
Oh, Bird and Magic were unbelievable. Magic must have eyes in the back of his head.
Yeah, but how about Bird? That guy's incredible. He does it all. Those two are definitely the highlights for me. Michael Jordan, the man is phenomenal. On some of his dunks, he looks like he's flying. What does he have, wings?
They just saw a sneak preview of an all-new sports rock video cassette offered by Sports Illustrated, NBA Superstars.
Charles Barkley is my man. I mean, he can dunk on anybody. That got me fired up.
It's 50 fantastic minutes of basketball's greatest stars, all set to today's hottest rock, with music by Janet Jackson, Scandal, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, and many more.
They had all the best players, like Hakeem, Kareem, Malone, Dr. J.
And the music was on.
What, a sports rock video? I'd buy that in a second.
Best of all, you get it free.
Free? You're kidding.
You get NBA Superstars free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated. Call this toll-free number and get 25 weeks of SI at incredible savings. Almost 50% off the cover price.
Almost 50%? That's some serious savings.
Including the blockbuster baseball preview and the giant 25th anniversary swimsuit issue. Overflowing with the most beautiful women to appear in SI over the past 25 years. All coming your way, along with NBA Superstars free.
So what's the deal? The magazine's gonna cost more, right?
No, you get it all, including the free video at almost 50% off the cover price. Just 3 monthly installments of $9.89 each. Even use your credit card.
Well, that's going to be at least a buck off of every issue. That's pretty good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
I let my subscription run out, but I'm gonna get another one. You got me.
If you've been putting off subscribing to SI, call this toll-free number now. You'll save big and get NBA Superstars free.
So, I'm going to call. Are you? I'm calling. Yeah, we're going to call. We're going to call now. Let's go. 2 votes.
Few heroes in any sport have been so dominant at what they do as sprint car racer Steve Kinser. From the start, Kinser was destined for greatness. In 1978, he won 10 races as a rookie. He doubled that output his second year. In 1987, we named him MotorWeek Racer of the Year for a rampage that saw him win 46 of 69 races, including 12 straight. But last year, Steve changed directions. After maintaining a virtual stranglehold on the driving aspect of the sport for a decade, he turned his attention to organizational matters through his support behind the newly formed United Sprint Association, along with his uncle Carl. He hopes that move will pay dividends somewhere down the sprint car road. The 9-time World of Outlaw champion Steve Kinser is with us. And Steve, the first question has to be, why USA? How did the United Sprint Association come about, and what are you guys trying to accomplish?
Well, I think there was some car owners that had been running the World of Outlaw organization and was doing a lot of traveling and actually wanted to cut down some of the road time where they could put a little more time in their shops and mostly just maybe run 2 or 3 times all on the weekends instead of running midweek shows.
You guys have always been the travelingest bunch of race car guys in the country. I mean, the miles that you put on and the number of times that you race is just phenomenal. Is that as hard as it seems it would be, always living in a hotel, always on the road? Well, as far as a race driver part of it, it's not near as hard as it is for the crews. They've got to get the cars prepared and then get down the road, and they've given us so little time in between them. That was basically the biggest concern. Will you do any outlaw races, or have you made a break with that club?
Well, I think we've pretty well made a break with it. They might be a point where we'll run like the Knoxville Nationals, will be sanctioned by the World of Outlaws. Maybe that race, and that would probably, in my mind, be the only one that I might run at this point.
We know that you take a lot of money out of MotorWeek cameraman Greg Stevens' pocket playing golf. You're pretty good with the sticks out on the course. But sprint car drivers now really can make a pretty good living. But for years, it really wasn't that way. It's only been in the last few years that the top guys can make the kind of money that you're making now. Is sprint car racing making the kind of financial progress you'd like to see?
Well, I think as far as going out and running for the purse money, the purse money is not all that bad. The thing is, we got to run so many nights to do it. I think what we're trying to do now is maybe limit our amount of races where we don't have to do all the racing, and we'd like to be able to get in and get some of our races televised, where we can get the corporate sponsors involved in it. And I think everybody knows for things to really grow, you got to be able to somehow get the corporate sponsors involved in racing, and it is in a lot of other sports where sprint car racing, it's still got a long ways to go for it. It can get the recognition that some of the other organizations have.
In the old days, sprint car racing to some extent was a stepping stone to Indy cars, and that was a logical transition. Perhaps not logical to go from a dirt bull ring to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but still a transition a lot of guys made. You're the only driver ever to pass his rookie test on the first day at Indy, and yet that doesn't seem to be a very high priority with you right now. Are you looking at Indy cars? Where are you looking for the future?
Well, I'm not really looking anywhere right now. I am just trying to get out here and promote sprint car racing and trying to make it something. Now, I would like to really and maybe break into some other type of racing if the opportunity came right. It's one of those things where I probably wouldn't give up what I'm doing right now unless it would be something I think would be a first-class team that would make me also go out and look good along with the team. I would have to have something like that for me to make any kind of change.
What would it take for you to consider the 1989 season a success?
Well, I think what it would take is right now just to go out here and win us another championship, and I would like to get up and win maybe over 50% of the races.
A guy who is never satisfied, has never seen enough checkered flags. Thanks for coming to visit with us. Steve Kinser, former MotorWeek Illustrated Racer of the Year, now ramrodding at USAF. We'll be back with more right after this.
Not too long ago, if you'd asked me to join AARP, I'd have said no way.
I'm not retired. Then I found out AARP is for any person who's 50 or older.
So I called. I like the fact that I could be part of an organization the government listens to on issues like health, long-term care, and financial security.
I like the fact that I could save money with AARP's pharmacy by mail.
Now, as a member, I get modern maturity magazines and informative news bulletins. I can enroll in the group health insurance program.
And qualify for special rates on home and auto insurance. My $5 membership even gets me great savings at hotels across the country.
Plus, joining is so easy. Just call this toll-free number.
AARP will send you a free information package.
And once you send your $5 dues, your own membership card.
So come on, become a member.
I can't think of a better $5 you'll ever spend. Go ahead, call this number now.
95,000 miles and no problems.
Because Quaker State exceeds every single car maker's U.S. requirements for maximum engine protection. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
ESPN presents the NCAA's finest. Two men alone on a mat, locked in a struggle for the NCAA Wrestling Championship. Saturday night on ESPN.
Jack Long, the California attorney and promoter who organizes the Canadian Grand Prix, this week gave up that job to devote all of his attention to the new U.S. Grand Prix at Phoenix. And in IndyCar racing, meanwhile, Peter Parrott this week resigned as a chief mechanic for Penske Racing. He'll be joining the Porsche IndyCar team, and that ends a 10-year partnership with driver Rick Mears that produced 20 race victories and 3 championships. Now, the Penske team in happier days saw Parrott on Rogers' right. He wanted the Penske team manager's job, vacated earlier by Derek Walker, who resigned to run the Porsche IndyCar program. Instead, Penske gave that job to Danny Sullivan's chief mechanic, Chuck Sprague. Parrott responded by resigning, calling his old boss Walker at Porsche and taking a new job. His replacement will be 27-year-old Richard Buck, who was formerly in charge of preparing Danny Sullivan's backup car.
Midget driver Nick Fernoro found himself derailed en route to what appeared to be a sweep of the Niagara Falls Indoor Midget Racing Series last weekend. Nick had already captured the first 2 races in Niagara and was leading the third when this contact put him at the back of the field. Randy Verhoost took over the lead and held off Dave McKnight, who collects the wall here on the last lap trying to catch up to Randy. Bob Resco filled in second place as Verhoost wins his first Niagara Falls Midget event. One bright note for Nick Fernoro, however, 2 earlier wins in the series locked up the championship.
Finally, the defending world motorcycle road racing champion Eddie Lawson is preparing to open his title defense at the Japanese Grand Prix in a couple of weeks. So what does the world champ do to sharpen his focus on the upcoming campaign? Well, Eddie went out to Ascot Park and suited up for a few laps in a 3/4 midget. He says the bike season's no problem. He's all dialed in for that. He went out to Ascot just looking for a good time.
Well, you know, after going 200 miles an hour, you think that you know what speed is, but it's funny. You get in one of these things, you feel like you're really going. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Eddie knows this oval from his dirt track motorcycle days, quickly demonstrated that he has not forgotten the flicker in and steer it with the throttle technique. Now, a while back, we showed you the Barber Saab Series debut of Freddie Spencer, Eddie's old rival in the GP Motorcycle Championship battles. For now, those two are fully focused on the two-wheeled wars, Eddie joining Freddie's former team, Rothman's Honda, for the coming season, while Freddie takes Eddie's old ride with Yamaha.
Wait a minute, DeSpain, he only ran 1 race in Barber Saab. Does that mean that Freddie's career as a 4-wheel driver is now in retirement as well?
We'll have to ask him that question if we can find him. He'll be in Japan in 2 weeks for the opener. Speaking of personality conflicts, a little bird tells us that the John Andretti-Bob Wallach confrontation at Miami may continue this weekend with the subtitle, Who's Really Running This Team? If it actually happens, we'll tell you about it next week on MotorWeek. And you were in Canada turning up interesting news about a new race for next year.
That's right, Dave. I was up there with with Mike Waltrip going through his physiology exam at McGill University, and I happened to hear news of a potential raid rally in Canada next year for snowmobiles, 1,500 miles through the Canadian backwoods, organized by Renee Metch, who handles the Paris-Dakar raid rally, so we have to believe it's probably going to happen.
I understand that there's a good chance we can get you a ride in that if it happens. For Bob Varsha, I'm Dave DeSpain. That's it for Motor Week. We'll see you next week at our regular time, 6 p.m. Eastern on Thursday.
Winning on a NASCAR circuit takes dedication, teamwork, and a strong will to succeed. You'll find that same spirit in the Air Force Reserve. We've got a place for you on the winning team.
Five great